So now we'll continue from the second chapter. So in the first chapter, Vidurji asked so many questions to Bhakti. And then in the end, the last verse, he says, Vartam Sukhe Kirtaya, say, please describe the glory of that in please Kirti. So then, second chapter, the remembrance of Lord Sri Shuka Uvacha. Iti Bhagavata Prishtaha Vartam Priyashayam Vattam na Choteha
Sri Sukadev Goswami said, when the great devotee Uddhava was asked by Vidura to speak on the messages of the dearest Lord Krishna, Uddhava was unable to answer immediately due to excessive anxiety at the remembrance of the Lord.
So, when Vidurji he asked, Bhagavata is the great devotee Uddhava, when he was asked by Vidura, Shatra is Vidura. When Vidurji asked this wonderful question, all these questions to Uddhava, Priyashayam, about the dearest devotee, dearest Lord. So, for Uddhava, the dearest to Uddhava is Krishna. So, when Vidura asked so many questions about the dearest Krishna, Prati Vaktu Nacho Uttaha could not tolerate the feeling of separation. Just like in the first canto, the 15th chapter, Arjuna, when Yudhishthira Maharaj he asked so many questions to Arjuna in 14th chapter. In 15th chapter, for some time, the first verse says that Arjuna he fell silent. He could not speak anything. But then he somehow composed himself and started speaking. Similarly, here also, Vidurji, when he asked questions to Bhava, for some time, Bhava could not speak anything. He went into ecstasy. Prativaktum na uchcha utteha. He could not bear the feelings of separation. Austantyat smariteshvaraha, because of remembrance of Krishna. That is now anything which triggers the remembrance of Krishna puts a devotee into ecstatic, status. And that's what happened to. So how great Uddhava was, that is described by Shukadeva Goswami. Why he went into such ecstatic state just by hearing about Krishna? Yaha panchahaya no matra Pratarashaya yachitaha Naisadrachayam yasya
Indrachayata tasya
Aparyam balalilaya.
Tapaya balalilaya.
He was one who, even in his childhood, at the age of 5 years, was so absorbed in the service of Lord Krishna that when he was called by his mother for his morning breakfast, he did not wish to have it.
Okay. Yah Panchahayano Matra, when Uddhav was just 5 years old. Yah Panchahayano, 5 years old. When his mother would call him for breakfast, Pratarashaya, breakfast. When he would call her for, she would call him for breakfast, Naichadrachayan, he didn't like to come. Why? He was engaged in playing with Krishna in the form of dolls of Krishna. That was the glory of Uddhava. So Prabhupada writes that Uddhava was a natural devotee of Krishna and he was eternally liberated. Eternally liberated means, Prabhupada writes, eternally liberated soul is a devotee of the Lord who never forgets him. A Nitya Baddha may forget Krishna. He has forgotten Krishna. But Nitya Siddha, he never forgets Krishna. And therefore, Prabhupada writes that human life is meant for reviving our eternal relationship with Krishna. And then Prabhupada says, that is the advantage of taking birth in good family of devotees. Shuchinam, Srimatam, Gehe, Yoga, Prishto, Vijayati. So then Prabhupada writes, he describes more about how Uddhava was playing with dolls of Krishna. Pancharatri ki formula for training persons in devotional services, temple worship, whereby the neophytes get the opportunity to learn devotional service to the Lord. Parikshit Maharaj also used to play with the dolls of Krishna in childhood. So similar thing is described about Parikshit also. And so therefore, a neophyte means he always needs new things. He gets excited by new things. So when a person comes to Krishna consciousness, wow, new philosophy. Oh, new deities, new mantra, new holy places. All these are new. So newness excites a neophyte devotee. After 10 years, सब देख लिया धाम वही है, वही वृंदावन, वही जगन्नाथपुरी, वही मायापुर, वही होली नेम, वही डिवोटी, वही सेवा, So newness, when newness goes away, still a person is attracted to the process. That means he has become mature in the process. So neophyte means he is attracted by new things in life. But a mature devotee, he gets attracted by same old things. That is the difference between neophyte devotee and a mature devotee. So we have to develop, idea of steady service. Just like now, those who are reading Bhagavatam for the first time, wow, first time we are reading Bhagavatam. New pastimes, new commentaries, new purports, sab naya hai. But after some time, when everything is done, ठीक है, 5 बार पढ़ लिया भागवतम. Just few weeks back, we were in Govardhan Eco Village, and Sachinandan Maharaj was giving an online talk to all the devotees, and he was telling that this he was talking on chanting. That is his core. He was speaking about chanting, japa. And he was telling that, I have read this Sharanagati book. And so he wanted to quote something from Sharanagati. So he called, one of the devotee and said, please bring Sharanagati book. And his devotee brought him and said, actually, this Sharanagati book is such a wonderful book. He says, I must have read this book 500 or maybe 1,000 times. For him, 500 बार, 10,000 बार, 1,000 बार पढ़ लिया है. It is like, he says, and every time I read it, I get some new meanings. So that is a Uttam Bhakta, same old things, but Nitya Nava Navayaman. Krishna is always new. Krishna Katha is always new. Satamayam Sar Britam Nisargo Yadarthavani Shruti Cheta Samapi Pratikshanam Navya. It is always new for a devotee. So till the time we are not on that stage, we have to take shelter of, deity worship. Of course, that does not mean that those who are doing deity worship, they are neophytes. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes in one place that deity worship, it is said that a neophyte should worship deities. That does not mean those who are worshipping deities after 10 years, they are still neophyte. No. For a neophyte, for them, the deities, they are the only object of worship. But for an advanced devotee, when he worships deities, that is the way he connects to the Lord. That is not a neophyte way of worshipping. And of course, it is said that there are two powerful ways to develop connection with Krishna: worshipping the deities of the Lord and reading the Dasham Skanda of the Lord, pastimes of the Lord. So that's why Prabhupada writes that we should also worship deities. Parikshit Maharaj also used to play with Krishna's dolls. It is described, in the second canto. Savai Bhagavato Raja Pandaveyo Maharatha Bala Kridanakam Kridam Krishna Kridam Ya Adade Bala Kridanako Kridan. He would play with the dolls of Krishna. Krishna Kridam Ya Adade. So he was not interested in anything. He was just interested in playing with dolls of Krishna. That is how pure devotees are. That's how great devotees are. In India, the children in good families are still given the dolls of the Lord, or sometimes the Devatas, so that they may develop the aptitude of service. So service aptitude is more important. And then Prabhupada writes, by the grace of the Lord, we were given the same opportunity by our parents. And the beginning of our life was based on this principle. So that is the understanding. Okay, he continues. Sakatham sevaya tasya
Sakadam sevaya dasya
alena jarasamgataha
alena jarasamgata
Krishto vartam prati bruyat Bhartu pada vanusmaran.
Smaran Uddhava, the served the Lord continually from his childhood and in his old age. That attitude of service never slackened. As soon as he was asked about the message of the Lord, he at once remembered all about him. Hare.
So, because Uddhava, he continuously served the Lord from childhood. The previous verse said, Panchahayano 5 साल से भगवान की सेवा में लगे हुए. So continuously, that person who has served Krishna from childhood, how can he give up? So in old age, Kalena Jara, when he became old, his service didn't slacken. So Prabhupada and Chakravarti Thakur, they give little different meanings of this verse. So Prabhupada writes, although now Uddhav was old, but still he didn't reduce his service. So in mundane service, there is satiation. And therefore, after serving for some time, people will want to retire. Bas ho gaya, retirement chahiye. But in transcendental service, there is no retirement. Retirement hai nahi. In Krishna consciousness, there is no retirement. The more one becomes old, the more services increase. As Gaurav was telling us one time that in ISKCON, Jawan sota aur Buddha nachta hai. So that is how, in spiritual life, it is all opposite. So the more one becomes mature in Krishna consciousness, the more he becomes eager to serve. So transcendent, mundane service means satiation. Transcendental service means enthusiasm. So Prabhupada writes, transcendental service to the Lord is not mundane. The service attitude of the devotee gradually increases and never becomes slackened. In old age, generally people are allowed retirement, but in transcendental service, no retirement. On the contrary, service attitude increases with age. There is no satiation, therefore no retirement. Materially, when a man becomes tired, he is allowed retirement. In transcendental service, there is no feeling of fatigue. Can you imagine? Prabhupada is the sublime example of no retirement. वो 70 साल में तो रिटायरमेंट के भी ऊपर का एज हो गया अभी. That age he is going alone on a worldwide mission. Kaviraj Goswami, another very, he's a pole star. तो कोई भी नहीं बोल सकता अभी बस बूढ़ा हो गया. अभी कविराज गोस्वामी बोल रहे हैं आमी वृद्ध जरा दूर लिखिते का पयकर मने किच्छु स्मरण न होए ना देखिए नयने ना सुनिए श्रवणे तबु लिखिए बड़ा विस्मय. ही इज मोर देन 90 साल में 90 में उनको सेवा दिया है, बुक लिखो. And he is saying लिखना नहीं हो रहा है, my hands are trembling, I cannot see, I cannot remember, still I am writing. तबु लिखी नाना रोग ग्रस्त चलिते वसिते न पारी पंचरोग पीड़ा व्याकुल रात्रि दिने मरी. I can die anytime. Still he is writing. So nothing can stop a devotee from rendering devotional service. It's like Kunti Maharani offers a prayer. Oh my Lord, let my mind go towards you, just like Ganga flows towards the ocean. त्वयि अनन्य विषया मतिर मधुपते सकृत रतिमुद्वहता मध्या गंगे वोघमुदन्वती. Nothing can stop a devotee from practicing bhakti. So that's what Prabhupada writes. Service on the bodily plane dwindles as the body grows older, but the spirit is never old. And therefore, on the spiritual plane, the service is never tiresome. Bhishma Dev on the bed of arrows, when Krishna comes with Pandavas, he is welcoming all of them. Desha Kala Vibhagavit. According to his capacity, according to his situation, he is welcoming Krishna. Raghunath Das Goswami, he is so eager to serve Mahaprabhu that he is not considering any impediments. His father had put 12 guards, always guarding, but still he ran away. So that is the understanding. Prabhupada writes, Uddhav undoubtedly became old, but that does not mean that his service, the spirit became old. Service attitude matured on transcendental plane, and therefore, as soon as he was questioned by Vidura, he at once remembered the Lord. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes that Kalena Jarasam Gataha. He says, even though years passed, he did not age. He did not become old. Because service keeps one vibrant. When a person is serving the Lord, he is not realizing that my body is becoming old. So that passing time had no effect on Uddhava. The word Kale should not be taken to mean with time, since that would mean that Uddhava was influenced by time. But it is not the fact. That would contradict the statement. Prabhupada Chakravarti Thakur quotes a verse from Bhagavatam 10:45-19 that says, even the most elderly inhabitants of the city appeared youthful, full of strength and vitality. So physically, Uddhava was not old. Just time had passed by, but his service attitude was ever fresh, ever youthful. So little different understandings. Okay, so now when Uddhava, he was questioned, he remembered the Lord, and then what was the result? Samuhurtam abhutu shnim
Samurtam
Krishnangri sudhaya bhrisham Tivrena bhakti yogena Nimagna sadhu nirvritaha
Nibbaha sadhinakah.
For a moment he remained dead silent, and his body did not move. He became absorbed in lecture of remembering the Lord's lotus feet in devotional ecstasy, and he approached to be going increasingly deeper into the ecstasy.
So now, as he heard the questions about Krishna, what happened? Muhurtam abhut tushnim. He became silent for a moment. He manifested ecstatic symptoms. Krishna, his body didn't move. Krishnangri Sudhaya Brisham. How it happened? He was absorbed in remembering the lotus feet of the Lord. Nirtivrena Bhakti Yogena. In devotional ecstasy, Nimagna. He was absorbed. Sadhu Nirvrita. Fully he was absorbed in devotional ecstasy. So, Muhurta. What is a Muhurta? What is the span of time? Muhurta means how long?
48.
Anyone knows?
48 minutes.
48. It is 48 minutes. So for 48 minutes, Uddhava was in trance. So Prabhupada Chakravarti Thakur writes, for 48 minutes he was silent. Since he became peaceful and blissful, being submerged in sweetness of Krishna's feet, lotus feet. This verse describes his remembrance of Krishna. So when he came out of this ecstatic symptom, he says, oh, I have separated from Krishna. I have been separated from my master. No, that's what will happen when Uddhava will come out. So he became submerged in sweetness of prema. That's what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. So when a person is in ecstasy, when he is remembering Krishna, two things happen. That's what happened to Uddhava. He became silent and he became absorbed. That is the condition of a pure devotee. Silent and absorbed. He is not interested in speaking any mundane thing. And he is absorbed in Krishna. Whenever he sees, a pure devotee sees something related to the Lord, he goes into ecstasy. Just like Madhavendra Puri, when he would see the rain clouds, he would go into ecstasy, remembering the complexion of Krishna. It is said in the 6th Canto of Bhagavatam, as soon as Yamaraj heard from Yamdutas that Vishnu Dutas had come and they spoke so many things, he went into ecstasy. He was very happy. So pure devotees, because they are intimately connected with the Lord, anything which triggers, that is called as Uddipan. You know? Uddipan means triggers the remembrance of Krishna. So that is the difference between a pure devotee and a sadhaka. Sadhakas, they get excited when they hear some controversy of the material world. ये politician के साथ ऐसा हो गया, ये cricket में ऐसा हो गया, ये इधर वैसा. They get excited by the controversies of the material world. But pure devotees, they get excited by hearing any pastime of Krishna. So that's how, it is so very difficult for a sadhaka to be focused on Krishna. Prabhupada tells a story. It is not so easy to get a sadhaka to be excited always. Because by default, the default setting of the sadhaka is he gets excited by the material things of the world. Prabhupada tells a story. One time, there is a person who was always collecting garbage. उसका काम क्या है? कचरा उठाना. And one time he goes to perfume market, and seeing when he goes to perfume market, smelling all that strong perfume, he becomes unconscious. Perfume ka smell leke unconscious ho jata hai. Generally, it is the other way around. People, when they go to pass by the garbage area, they really get nauseated. This person is used to working in the garbage area. When he passes by the perfume shop, perfume market, he gets unconscious. Everybody is trying his best to revive this person. कुछ फर्क ही नहीं पड़ रहा है. One person comes and he understands that ये तो कचरा उठाने वाला. So he tells, I know how to revive this person. He gets some stinking garbage and puts near the nose of this person, and immediately gets a familiar taste, familiar smell. You know, so that's the sadhaka. He gets bored by hearing the ecstatic pastimes of Krishna. वही boring हो रहा है, नींद आ रही है जपा करने में. As soon as some controversy comes, पूरा नींद भाग जाता है नहीं. मतलब it is like everyday experience. जपा करने में नींद आ रहा है और कोई आके कुछ बात करने लगता है, पूरा नींद गायब. That is the condition of a sadhaka. But a pure devotee, he gets excited. He is absorbed in Krishna. Prabhupada writes, Uddhava remained completely silent for a moment, but then he appeared to be going deeper and deeper into ecstasy. Feelings of ecstasy are displayed by highly advanced devotees. So all these feelings of ecstasy are mentioned here. Shvedakam, Baroman, Tashru, Gadgad, Vaivanya, Unmad, Vishad, Garva, Harsha, Dainya, all these things. So all these things are appearing in the body now. Pulakod Bhinna Sarvango. Sneha Prasra Samplutaha Prasara.
It was so observed by Vidura that Uddhava had all the transcendental bodily changes due to total ecstasy, and he was trying to wipe away tears of separation from his eyes. Thus, Vidura could understand that Uddhava had completely assimilated extensive love for the Lord.
Pulaka Uttinna Sarva. So all the limbs of body, Uddhava's body, they were in ecstasy. So all the limbs, they exhibited the symptoms of ecstasy. Sarva Anga. And Uddhava, he was trying to wipe out the tears of separation. Munchan Milad Drisha Uchaha Suchaha. Munchan, he was wiping out the tears. Tears were coming out of his eyes. And Purna Artha Lakshitaha Tena. Vidura saw that Uddhava has achieved complete perfection. Sneha Prasara Samplutaha. Because he had completely assimilated the love for the Lord. So that is real Purna Artha. The word used here is Purna Artha. So what is real Purna Artha? Sneha Prasara Samplutaha. When one completely assimilates love for Lord, that is called as Purna Artha. So Chakravarti Thakur writes that his whole body erupted in goosebumps. Tears flowed from his eyes. Vidura understood that Uddhava had reached the perfection of prema. And this verse describes the symptoms of Uddhava's bliss. Sneha. Sneha Prasara Samplutaha. So Sneha comes from the word Snigdha. Snigdha, ghee. Ghee is Snigdha. Snigdha means ghee burns to give light. So sneha means a devotee is ready to do all sacrifice to serve the Lord. That is called as sneha. Sneha means where there is sacrifice. Kam means where there is sense enjoyment. Atmendriya priti vancha tare boli kam, Krishnendriya priti ichha dhare prema naam. So one cannot artificially imitate crying for Krishna for long. You know, there are some societies, even in today's times, there are some societies for them where if you join them, they'll say the sadhana is we have to cry for Krishna, and they will teach how to cry. You know, Gaur Govind Maharaj says our process is also the same. We have joined a crying mission. Prabhupada, Gaur Govind Maharaj would say, but that cry is not artificial cry. The cry, the tears of pure devotee, they come from genuine devotion. But the tears of Sahajiyas, Prabhupada writes, their tears wipe away all the conclusions of Siddhanta. So therefore, artificially crying will not solve the problem of Bhavaroga. Prabhupada writes in one place that if a woman is pregnant, then naturally she will cry when there is labor. But if a lady is not pregnant, just by crying, the child will not take birth. You know? So similarly, if a person doesn't have devotion in his heart, just by crying tears, love will not take birth. So that is the natural outcome. So Prabhupada writes about the 9 stages of devotion. And the last stage is Bhav and Prema. So Prabhupada writes there are 3 stages of development: Vaidhi Bhakti, Raganuga Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. These are the 3 stages Prabhupada writes. First is regulative principles, that is Sadhan Bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti. Second is Raganuga Bhakti, assimilation and realization. And last stage is ecstasy, symptomized by bodily expression, Prema Bhakti. The 9 different modes of devotional service are the beginning of the process. By regular hearing of the glories and the pastimes of the Lord, the impurities in the student's heart begin to be washed off. The more one is cleansed of impurities, the more one becomes fixed in devotional service. Gradually, the activities take the form of steadiness, firm faith, taste, realization, and assimilation, one after another. You know what Prabhupada is paraphrasing here? Can anyone tell me? Steadiness, faith, taste, realization, assimilation. Very famous.
Very famous.
Shraddha, sadhu sangha, bhajan kriya, anarth nivritti, nishtha, asakti, ruchi, bhava, prem. That's what Prabhupada is paraphrasing here. These different stages of gradual development increase love of God to the highest stage. And in the highest stage, there are still more symptoms. You know what Prabhupada is writing here? After prema, there is another 5 stages. After prema also, there is bhava. And then ultimately, sneha. And then mahabhav is exhibited by Radharani. Mahabhava Swarupa Shri Radha Thakurani Sarva Guna Khani Krishna Kanta Shiromani. So Mahaprabhu, what he exhibited is Mahabhava. All these were manifested by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Prabhupada writes that Rupa Goswami has described all that in Nectar of Devotion. Okay, then he continues. Shanakair Bhagaval Lokan
Shanakaira Bhagavat
Loka
Rilokam Punaragataha
Triloka Punaragataha
Vimrajya netre viduram
विमुच्यन्ते विदुरै
pritya bhava smayan.
प्रत्याहितस्य स्वयं
The great devotee Uddhava soon came back from the abode of Lord to the human plane, and wiping his eyes, he awakened his reminiscence of the past and spoke to Vidura in a pleasing mood.
So, although it says Shanakai means gradually Bhagaval Lokan. He came back from the abode of the Lord. That means he was with Krishna. So Bhagaval Loka to Nri Loka. Shanakai, gradually he came from Bhagaval Loka to Nri Loka. Punaragata, again he came back to human plane from the abode of the Lord. Vimrajya. Then after coming back, he wiped his tears. Prityaha, Utpriti aha, and he spoke with affection. So Uddhava, he didn't tell Vidurji, why you brought me back? I was with Krishna. You brought me to this material plane. Pure devotees, they are never interested in showing their symptoms of ecstasy. Anyone remembers any pastime of Prabhupada like this? What Prabhupada said? Prabhupada went into some ecstatic symptoms sometimes. Anyone can tell me something relevant about this? Pure devotees are not interested in showing their ecstatic symptoms.
So one time when he went into symptoms like that, and they had chanted Hare Krishna and he came back, then they asked, what should we do, Prabhupada? So Prabhupada said, yes, you should chant. That's one thing.
Yeah. And then Prabhupada said, when devotees asked, Prabhupada, what should we do when you go into such ecstatic symptoms, phases? So Prabhupada very humbly said, it doesn't happen often. As if he is not showing some embarrassment. Oh, sorry. I could not serve properly. So that's how pure devotee is. He never likes to show his ecstatic symptom. So Prabhupada writes, when Uddhava was fully absorbed, he actually forgot all the external world. When Uddhava wanted to speak to Vidura, he came down from the abode of the Lord Dwarka to the material plane of the human beings. Even though a pure devotee is present on this mortal planet, he is here in relation to the Lord for engagement in transcendental loving service and not for any material cause. So pure devotee, even if it is there in this, he is there in this material world, he is only doing spiritual work. He is not indulging in anything material. So Uddhava Ji, although he was absorbed in ecstatic realizations, but he was aware of the material world. And he was not acting in a mysterious way. He was not showing that, oh, I am from another world. I was absorbed in ecstasy. I am in such a high in my consciousness. So a Sahajiya wants to show his devotion. But a pure devotee never makes a show of his devotion, because devotion is a matter of personal relationship with the Lord. You don't show your personal relationship in front of the public. That is very, very secret. That's why Rupa Goswami tells it is very difficult to understand externally who is a Sahajiya and who is a Bhava Bhakta. How to understand? Rupa Goswami says there are 9 symptoms which only a Bhava Bhakta exhibits continuously. And a Sahajiya can never exhibit all those symptoms continuously. What are they? he says avyartha shanti, tolerance, avyartha kalatvam, not wasting time, virakti, detachment, manashunyata, free from any desire for prestige, shanti, avyartha kalatam, virakti, manashunyata, asha bandha, always hopeful that Krishna will show mercy, samutkantha, always eager to get mercy of the Lord, namagane sadaruchi, always chanting the names of the Lord, saktis tadgunakhyane, attachment to glorifying the qualities of the Lord, pritis tadvasati sthale, attachment to going to the holy places where Lord has performed pastimes. So all these things cannot be imitated. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, he quotes a verse where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling Rupa Goswami, the living entities all over the universe are enjoying the effects of speculative fruitive results of their own work, life after life. Out of all of them, some may be influenced by association of pure devotees and thus get the chance to execute devotional service. Basically, Prabhupada is quoting Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagyavana Jeev Guru Krishna Kripaye Paye Tilata Beach. That this taste is the seed of devotional service. And one who is fortunate enough to have received such a seed is advised to sow it in the core of his heart. And then by pouring water on it, it will fructify and then it will grow, it will become big, and ultimately it will cross the layers of the universe and reach the spiritual sky and ultimately land at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So that is the whole journey of a living entity. So this Bhakti Lata Beach, this word comes many times. What is this Bhakti Lata Beach? We have discussed this earlier also. What is exactly this Bhakti Lata Beach? Anyone can tell me? In Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, 19th chapter, 152nd verse, Prabhupada writes, the methods, rules, and regulations by which one is systematically trained in the process of devotional service constitutes the Bhakti Lata Beach. And methods, rules, and regulations by which one is systematically, perfectly trained. That is given by Guru and Krishna. Okay, so then Uddhav ji, he comes out of his ecstatic symptoms, and then first thing he says is, oh, how unfortunate is the situation of Yadus. They didn't realize they are staying with the Supreme Lord. So out of sympathy, Uddhav, he first brings out the philosophical conclusion in order to pacify Vidura. Because Vidura was also overcome with grief. He just came from Prabhas. He heard Krishna has left, Yadus have left. And Uddhav knows because Uddhav was there. And he met Krishna after that, and then Krishna departed. Uddhav knows that Krishna has gone. And Vidurji, he is asking the same question. So Uddhav could understand that he is really sad. So he wanted to pacify Uddhavji, Vidurji. So Uddhav first brings out a philosophical conclusion. Uddhava uvacha.
Uddhava uvacha.
Krishna Dhyumani Nimloche.
Krishna Nimloche.
Nishvajkarenaha.
Krishna Krishna
Induna Kushalam Bhuyam.
Induna
Srishu Griheshwaham.
He Uddhava said, my dear Vidura, the son of the world, Lord Krishna has said, and our house has now been swallowed by the great snake of time. What can I say to you about the welfare? Hare Krishna.
So Uddhav says, Krishna Dyumani, the Krishna sun has set. Krishna sun has set. Krishna Dyumani Nimloche, it has set. Girineshu Ajgarenaha, and our house has been swallowed by the great snake of time. Time has swallowed our house. What then, when Krishna is gone, what can I say about my welfare, our welfare? Kim nuna kushalam bruyam. Abhi kya bolu apne bare mein? Kya bolu? What is that's what he's saying. What should I speak now? Krishna has gone. Gata Shrishu Griheshwaham, because Krishna has gone, all the fame, all the beauty, all the prosperity has gone. So Prabhupada writes, Uddhava could understand the grief of Vidura, and therefore he wanted to sympathize with him by saying that after the sunset, everyone is in darkness. Since the entire world was merged in the darkness of grief, neither Vidur, nor Uddhava, nor anyone else could be happy. Uddhava was as much aggrieved as Vidura. Therefore, and there was nothing further to be said about their welfare. So, why Uddhava is using the word Krishna sun? Just to pacify Vidur. That sun never gets destroyed. Sun has just disappeared from our vision. Sun is not affected by the rising and setting. So Krishna is like that sun. He has just disappeared from our eyes. He has appeared once in a day of Brahma. He came, he performed his pastimes. Now he has gone. Now in some other universe, he's performing his pastimes. So Chakravarti Thakur writes a beautiful purport to this. He says, in a country, after the setting of the sun, what happens? Very, very wonderful analogy he's giving. When the sun sets, what happens? First thing is darkness appears. Second thing is lotus withers away. Third thing, Chakravaka laments. Fourth, thieves, dacoits, rakshasas, ghosts, they become joyful. Similarly, when Krishna disappears, the world gets devoured by the snake of lamentation. Second, righteous people, which are like lotus, they start withering away. Third, Chakravaka, they are like devotees, they are like Chakravak, they lament. And Devatas, they are in charge of the cosmos. They become unsettled because the dacoits, like irreligious propensities, they start growing up. So that is when Krishna disappears. So Prabhupada writes about that. Krishna's pastimes are eternal. Sun appears in one place and disappears. That does not mean sun is lost. Prabhupada also writes about that. Chakravarti Thakur's purport. As at sunset, snakes become powerful, thieves are encouraged, hosts become active, lotus becomes disfigured, and Chakravaki laments. So, with the disappearance of Lord, atheists feel enlivened and devotees become sorry. And then eighth is another very, very sad verse Uddhava is telling. He's saying the entire world is so unfortunate. More unfortunate than the entire world is the Yadu dynasty. They didn't realize that they were staying with Parabrahma. Durbhago Batalokoyam.
लोकोऽयं
दुर्भाग्यवत् लोकयन् विधवानितरमपि
ये संवसन्तो न विदुर्
ये
ये संहसन्तो विदुर्
हरिमीनायोगपम्
हरिमिनयोगपम्.
This universe with all its planets is most unfortunate, and even more unfortunate are the members of Yadu dynasty because they could not identify Lord Hari as person of Godhead any more than the fish identify the moon.
Durbhago, Bhatta Loko. Bhatta means alas. Suddenly, Loko, entire universe has become unfortunate. This universe with all the planets is most unfortunate. And even more unfortunate are the Yadus. Yadavo Nitaram api. Why? अरे देवर नितरा मीन्स मोर स्पेसिफिकली पूरा संसार का ही दुर्भाग्य, उसमें भी सबसे ज्यादा दुर्भाग्य किसका है? यदु का. Why? ये संवसंतो they were staying with Krishna, they were dining with Krishna, walking around, doing everything with Krishna. But now Vidu, they could not identify him as a supreme Lord. Just as, and he gives an example. In the Samudra Manthan Leela, when moon came out of the water, then the fishes realized, oh my God, he was a great devata. ये तो हमारे बीच में रह रहा था, हमको लगा ये हमारे जैसा ही एक. So that's how Yadus, they thought, oh, he is one of our Yadus. Or somebody may say, well, the Yadus could understand that he is Parabrahma, but they didn't understand he is Bhagavan. That's what Chakravarti Thakur writes. So therefore, it is very, very important. When a person is present, we don't realize the importance of that person. We don't realize the value of that person. And we lament when that person is gone. He says, other people are unfortunate because people of the world, they thought Krishna is a great politician. He is a great king. He is a social reformer. He is a political leader. Acha, bada aadmi. Yadavas are unfortunate. Why? They do not know the Lord, being bewildered by his sweetness. They didn't realize that he is the supreme Lord. And he says, I am also unfortunate. He says, although I knew who is Krishna, but still I did not live with him at this moment. I have been separated from him. So therefore, even after getting into Krishna consciousness, if we don't realize what we have got, then that person is most unfortunate. So therefore, we should not take the association of devotees so lightly. It is a greatest and the rarest of the treasures we have. Jnana-avalambaka kechit kechit karma-avalambaka vayam tu haridasanam padatrana-avalambaka. Some people take shelter of jnana, some people take shelter of karma. This devotee says, I take shelter of the sleepers of the devotees because that is my hope, that is my shelter. Prabhupada writes, Uddhava lamented for the unfortunate people of the world who could not recognize Krishna in spite of seeing all his transcendental qualities. And then Uddhava, he lamented his own fortune also. Prabhupada writes in the middle, because although he knew Krishna to be Supreme Lord, he could not properly use the opportunity to render the service. He regretted everyone's misfortune, including his own. In the end of the third canto, when Kardamuni and Devavati's episode comes, after Kardamuni makes a huge celestial palace, and Devahuti and Kardamuni enjoy for hundreds of years, and then they come back, and then Kardam gives 8 daughters to Devahuti, and then he's going away. Then Devahuti laments. Vanchito Saham bhagavatanunam vanchita maya drinam yatvam vimuktidam prapya na mumuksheya bandhana. She says, I am cheated by material nature. I got your association. I could have, come out of this entanglement of birth and death, but I didn't take advantage of it. So that is how Uddhava is also thinking, although Devavati is a, eternal associate, but still she is thinking like this. Similarly, Uddhava is thinking like this. A pure devotee of the Lord thinks himself most unfortunate. That is due to excessive love for the Lord and is one of the transcendental perceptions of viraha. That is viraha. So therefore, pure devotee, he thinks I am unfortunate, As Mahaprabhu says, Durdaiva midrashamiha janina nuragaha. I am so unfortunate. So that is a pure devotee. So Chakravarti Thakur writes that it is like fish in the water. So those fish, they didn't recognize that moon is a devata. And then he says, actually, however, they have great fortune. So Yadus, they were really fortunate. 10th Canto describes in great detail how fortunate they were. Those who are aware of Krishna's sweetness are greater than those who are aware of his powers. So, when Uddhava is telling, oh, they are unfortunate, actually, it is the outcome of a pure devotee's, sentiments of separation. Actually, Yadus are most fortunate because they were absorbed in sweetness of Krishna. And therefore, they didn't recognize that he is Supreme Lord. So in one sense, somebody can say, oh, they're unfortunate, but they are most fortunate also. And then Prabhupada gives example of cow urine and milk. He says, people of this world can't fathom that there may be a milk ocean, just as a person taking cow urine can't understand how milk can come from cow. Prabhupada gives an example. So जिसने जीवन भर काऊ यूरिन ही पिया है, उसको बोलेंगे गाय दूध भी देती है, बोले ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है, पॉसिबल ही नहीं है. So that's how Prabhupada gives an example. And so then Prabhupada writes, avajananti maam mudha manushim tanumashatam. Okay, so we'll stop here. We'll continue next time. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. La Prabhupada ki jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagvatam ki jai.
Jai.
Lord of
Dandavat pranam, dandavat pranam.
Hare
Very
Krishna,
good.
Hare Krishna, Hare
Very
Krishna.
good. Very good.